In this video, I want to have a look at fractional powers. So we'll start off looking at a power of a half. So we know that x to the power of a half squared would just simplify down to give us x, because we'd multiply our powers together, so a half times 2 would give us 1. So that just gives us x. We also know, though, that the square root of x squared would give us x as well, because square root and squared are inverse operations. So because these two things both equal x, that means that the square root of x is equal to x to the power of a half. So we've rewritten that here. The square root of x is x to the power of a half. So we can convert between those two notations. We do the same thing if we looked at the power of a third. So x to the power of a third cubed would give us just x, because a third times 3 is 1. And also the cubed root of x cubed, well, the cubed root and the cubed would cancel each other out because they're inverse operations, and we'd just be left with x. So that means that x to the power of a third is equal to the cubed root of x. So more generally, we could write it as x to the power of 1 over n is going to be equal to the nth root of x. And you can see that same explanation above it. So all of the fractions that we've looked up here have all had a 1 in the numerator, so a half, a third, or 1 on n. But these sorts of rules also apply when our fractions don't have a 1 in the numerator. So the pattern there is if we have x to the power of m over n, that's the same thing as writing the nth root of x to the power of m, or we could write it as the nth root of x all to the power of m. Those two things, or those three things, all mean the same thing. Let's have a look at a few examples. Our first one asks us to simplify 27 to the power of 2 over 3. So without using a calculator, we know that 27 to the power of 2 over 3 is the same thing as writing the cubed root of 27 because of that 3 in the denominator. And then whatever that is, we can square it because of the 2 in the numerator. So the cubed root of 27 would just be 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So we would have 3 squared, which will give us 9. Now, if we did it the other way, we'd get the same answer, but we're working with messier numbers. So we could write the cubed root of 27 squared, and then try and figure out what 27 squared is and take the cubed root, but they're not nice, easy numbers to work with, so we'll do it this way instead. Our next example asks us to solve 125x to the power of x, is equal to 5. So having looked at that, we want to look at the relationship between 5 and 125. So by now you should hopefully be getting the idea that 5 cubed, or becoming more familiar with your squares and your cubes, 5 cubed is equal to 125. But that's not what the question asks. The question asks us 125 to the power of something is equal to 5. So because this was a 3, our power here is going to be the reciprocal. So our x is going to be 1/3. You can also think of it as we need the x root of 125 to get us an answer of 5, and we would need the cubed root of 125 to give us an answer of 5. So you can think of it either way. Our third example asks us to simplify 4a to the power of 2/3 b times minus 3a to the power of 4 b to the power of minus a half. So it looks a bit messy, but we're just going to go through step by step. So first we'll do the numbers. So 4 times minus 3 would give us minus 12. Then we'll have a look at the a's. So we've got a to the power of 2/3 and a to the power of 4. So when we're multiplying, we're going to add those powers. So we'd have 4 and 2/3, but if we start putting mixed numbers in there, that's going to get really messy. So let's convert that to an improper fraction. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus the 2 is 14 over 3. So we can have a to the power of 14 over 3. And then we'll look at our b's, and we've got b, and we've got b to the power of minus a half. So 1 plus minus a half will just leave us with a half. Last example asks us to rewrite this expression using fractional and negative indices. So we've got 4 over the cubed root of x squared. So if we rewrite that first to have a fractional power, we would have x to the power of 2 over 3, and then rewriting that to having a negative power would be 4x to the power of minus 2 over 3. So let's have a look at fractional powers.